Hello and welcome to another unboxing video from Breakthrough Assault. I'm Lee Parnell and I'm recording from somewhere in the South of England, and today we're taking a look at the new Battlefront Mil-8 hip. It's hip to be square. The Mil-8 hip has been released by Battlefront as a direct-only release to coincide with the airborne assault missions in the Red Dawn book. The hip was originally designed as a turbo shaft replacement for the Mil-4 Hound, itself a squad transport with a piston engine. Originally it was just purely a turbo shaft up engine of the Mi-4, but after Khrushchev saw the US President's transport based around the Sea King, he was keen to have a purpose-built helicopter. Mil were only too happy to embrace this and thus created the twin-engined Mi-8 hip. The Red Army was still a little reluctant to buy into it, thinking the Mil-4 was perfectly fine, thank you very much. But the success of the Huey in Vietnam convinced them, and orders for the MIL hip finally came through. It served the Red Army as a platoon transport, able to carry 24 personnel inside, and could also carry rockets and other weapons on the outside as an improvised gunship, in much the same way as the Huey would do the same role in Vietnam. In a similar way, OSO was used as a basis for a dedicated gunship, the Hind, in the same way that Huey was based onto the actual Huey Cobra. In-game, much like a Hind, the hip is hit on the 3+. Unlike a Hind, it's only got a 5+ save, so those hits are going to be fairly traumatic if you're not careful. It's got a passenger capacity of 8 stands, which allows it to carry most of a air assault platoon, and you can take up to 3 of them to carry an entire company, though bear in mind that some of the attachments might have to be left behind. In game, they can be taken as an upgrade option for Afghanistan or for VDV units, and also for Cuban infantry units to make them Cuban paratroops. One thing to note is if you do take them as an upgrade for a VDV unit, then they still get to keep their BMDs and BTRs, they're just dropped by parachute later. Then I'll have to obviously work their way out how to get across the helicopters, because they've probably been parachuted about 15 miles off course from where they should be. Now, you could use the cardboard counters you get in the airborne assault mission, or you could have a bit more disposable income if you took a painting commission and therefore you just bought 3 hips for yourself. I thought it'd be prudent to get enough to carry an entire company, though I imagine most of the time I'm probably going to be carrying a mid-sized company, but hey. So, on that basis, and with my order now finally here, let's take a look at it. As this is a direct sale only box, there's obviously not much money being spent on marketing and artwork, as you can see. But we can proceed to open it up. The camera. Okay, so the first surprise is I was expecting a rotor sprue. We also get a Hind hole sprue, which, as far as I can tell, there are no parts we actually used from to do the hip. So yeah, basically buy a hip, get a Hind free. We then get a bag of metal components, so the 2 main struts and also the main gear strut, nose gear strut. We get the tail boon in a nice bubble wrap enclosure. We get the elevators, stabilizers in the back, and we also get what I presume is the main hole. Let's get that cut out just so we can see it. So full marks to Battlefront for making sure it's arrived safely. Can definitely not say they skimped on the protection. Probably half Malaysia's bubble wrap supply must go to Battlefront. Okay, man cuts up bubble wrap on the internet. There we go. There. Now, that isn't stuck together, that is just the resin holding it together. Just a little nudge should pop off. He says, I wanted to put this too much. There you go. Okay. That fact it comes in that kind of like shell arrangement means obviously it's not a solid lump of a mass. Let's get go on there. Right. There you are. Unboxed. With the hip unpackaged from its box, we can see that the two halves and the tail boon are both made from the traditional Battlefront grey resin. Oh, plus stabilisers. We've got white metal undercarriage, nose gear and main gear. And then we have the hard plastic hind kit to provide the tail rotor. It's quite interesting that the actual stabilisers from the hind kit aren't used on the hip. That does mean you can effectively build the entire hind kit and just share the rotor components between the two parts. Or replace them all with plastic discs, which you know, you get to do because it looks better. The actual level of detail on the resin kit and the resin parts are quite good. It's clearly been hand sculpted because there's a few little imperfections on how the lines sit, especially in the curved section at the back. But generally, it's been well realised. The cockpit glazing's all there. You can see the APU on the left hand, what is the left hand side, but is on the right hand side in this picture. You can see how the sponsor's longer. That's where they put the APU for starting the engine. Don't know why, but that's what they did. We can see the small hatch where the rear on the rear clamshell, where the rear gunner pokes gun out. Again, like the C-stand, it's kind of a shame that there is no option, given the hollow nature of the actual body, to have the clamshell or the side door open, to have the door gunner in place. You know, given it's reflecting the rules as a door gunner. White metal parts generally clean. You can see a little bit of flash on the bottom of the main gear wheels. That wasn't too hard to clear up. Sort of very quick to sort of sort out. No real flash on the actual hard resin parts, so that was nice. Need a little bit of cleaning around the rim, where effectively the two halves meet, but only a very, very minor amount. It was quite a clean mould. So yeah, let's put this together. Now I recommend a super glue with a fairly long grab. I think you're going to want to do some adjusting on this as you get the bits in place. Let's go work the super glue around. Okay, we'll get this on, and we're going to line up the escape hatch on the top. Makes kind of a nice easy place to get the lines in. Looks pretty good there. Make sure how we look for height on the bottom. The gaps aren't terribly big. When I saw those resin, I wasn't sure how it was going to look, but it's actually pretty good. Yeah, when you first saw this, I wasn't sure if it's going to be a big solid lump, which would obviously be a fairly hefty thing to carry around. This kind of shell layout works quite nicely to keep the weight down. Get some super glue around here. As we put it on, I'm going to make sure the rotor is sitting straight to the hole. Okay, once we got the tail boon on, we can start moving to the undercarriage next. So they are handed, and basically you'll work out pretty quickly which way it should go on. So you can see here that this line here goes on along there, and on this end little tab bit goes into there. And it sits in the groove on the actual hole. So let's just get some glue out. Gonna put a little bit in that little cutter. I'm not sure it actually touches, but it might be a handy way of making the joint stronger if it does. Okay, that's the main gear on. Now for the nose. Get a nice bit of silk glue there. Okay, so nose gear is on. Now it's just a case of getting stabilisers on the back. Unlike the other transport helicopters, the hip comes with a sprue from the hind with the main rotor and the tail rotor built on, rather than the cardboard rotors the others have. I could assemble this. I could also punch myself repeatedly in the crotch for about 5 minutes, so I'm just going to basically take the one I've already got from the hinds, ta-da, and use that for now. Tail rotor is less of an issue, and we'll clip that out and put it on. And there we have it, a assembled hip. Obviously, because it's a magnet, we can take this off. Technically, you can share that with the hind you get for free, basically. So you can see how you've got the tail rotor resting in for a second, because it's easier to paint it with it off. Yeah, so I'll put this on the turntable now, and let's go to our conclusions. So there you go, that's how it goes together. Now, in retrospect, do I feel like I've wisely invested my money buying the hips? Yeah, I think I do, actually. Obviously, it kind of helps that I got a hind for free, which is, never... It's only one way of swaying the argument. I think a lot of the arguments I had with Sea Stallion still hold true here, though. It's a lot of money to not be getting the decals thrown in free, that's for sure. And it's a lot of money to also then have to, be gap filling because the two halves don't really join together that well, especially around the actual transmission inlet. But once you do get it together and do that gap filling, the actual model looks pretty well. The detail is there. Again, you want to make sure you give it a good scrub to get the release agent off, because as my friend Mike will relate, painting it without doing that is not fun. I think you're going to have to consider how often are you going to play these missions. Now, I like playing my VDB guys. I'm hoping you can use these in missions other than Airborne Assault, because I kind of probably will do, because it'll be quite funny. If you aren't going to be using them that often, and if you certainly don't have the kind of space to do a large game where the helicopter rules could be quite handy for like doing a snatch and hold or trying to plug a gap by laying down a blocking force, you're probably better off with just the cardboard counters you get in the Airborne Assault mission pack. However, there is a case here that the model is nice enough to justify being bought just as a model for going in the cabinet. Like I say, gaps, being filled, being part of the consideration on that. And as Eddie was saying, when you think about this, it's only the same as having those Forge World kits that the 40k guys have, where you have a figure piece thing. It doesn't go together well, and you end up having to sculpt half it out. So this is better than that in that regard. At least it's only a few gaps. And yeah, if you see it as that, as basically being admittedly frivolous expense, but what wargaming expense isn't, then I think it's justifiable. I just wish that Battlefront had been quite so stingy and had thrown in for decals. I probably would have preferred decals over the second sprue to build a complete hind, because A, I've got enough hinds, and B, well, I didn't want to build so many hinds in my life for that damn canopy section at the front haunting me and the rotors. But on the other hand, it's quite nice if we did put rotors in. I'm likely probably going to either not use them or have a plexi disc, because I prefer the look of that. But it makes use of the fact that the actual hip and the hind share a common transmission, so no bad thing there. All in all, I quite like it as a kit. There's certainly room for improvement, but it's nice we finally got one. As always, share your thoughts below in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, then like and subscribe. And if you really enjoyed this video, then wow, you were really desperate for video content today, weren't you? But also, throw us £1 over at the Patreon so I can keep doing this and buying more things I probably really shouldn't be buying, because I should be probably prioritising like heating bills and stuff like that. As always, it's good to talk to you. Hopefully you enjoyed listening. And this is Break for Assault saying goodbye. Goodbye.